everyone, and welcome to the first video of Temur Hooting Delver, or just Temur Delver in Modern. Today we're playing Bant Snowblade, and I think this is going to be a good match to demonstrate the power in Temur Delver, or Temur Hooting Delver, and some of the rage quits you'll get out of your opponents, because sometimes when this deck is good, it's really, really good. It does take quite a bit of skill to pilot it, but if you pilot it correctly, it definitely gives you results. So our starting hand is pretty good. We have 2 lands, we have a Serum Visions, we have 2 Forces of Negations, which is essentially a counter spell when used together on our opponent's turn, at least for non-creatures. And we have 2 threats, Tarmogoyf and Hooting Mandrills. Those are our 2 main big finishers of this deck. And we are playing Bant Snowblade. Of course, I was figuring this out when I was originally playing the match, but as you see, that's a very special artifact on the battlefield. You pretty much know what you're playing. So we draw a Delver. Definitely going to lead with the Delver. We have protection to protect it. We could also choose to not protect it, let it eat removal, so then we can more safely play Tarmogoyf. Generally speaking, with this deck, you are not overcommitting to the board in most matchups. So if Delver flips, for example, on the next turn, especially when I don't necessarily know what I'm playing against, I will not overcommit to the board. 1 or 2 threats at the most are usually sufficient to win, and we're not generally a type of deck that goes wide very often. And if we are, that means the game is really grinding out anyway. So before the end of our opponent's turn, we're going to fetch. A land is not necessarily what we want right now. We have 28 instants and sorceries in this deck, at least in the main board. So yeah, flipping of a Delver is pretty common. So, first things first, go in, attack, our opponent does nothing. I think at this point we are safe to put down a Tarmogoyf. We have fodder for Force of Negation in Thought Scour, which also means that if we draw another blue spell next turn, we can use Force of Negation again, so we have double protection for our threats, or potentially stopping a threat on our opponent's end. Let's see what they're gonna play. Okay, so we don't have a response for Euro, so that's gonna resolve. That's fine. Our opponent will gain 3 life, so they just got back what Delver hit them. And they're going to ramp into land, potentially. But that's okay. Considering this is Bant Snowblade, this is part of what they do. So there we go. Our opponent gets their land. Now my concern right now is Path to Exile, considering our opponent has access to white. But we have protection, so we'll see. Now we have double bolt. That's interesting, because we can go in, we can attack. There are no instants right now in the graveyard, so I'm probably gonna go to the face, see if that's gonna elicit a response. It is. What are we gonna get? Now I barely remember, but I'm almost certain it's gonna be a Path to Exile. Yep. There it is. Now the issue here is we can't really respond with Force of Negation because it's our turn. So the path is definitely going to resolve. Our Tarmogoyf goes away. We'll get our island. And we're going to bolt anyway. Now that he's tapped out. Now that's okay. Um, Again, to be expected. Odds are our opponent's playing 3 to 4 of those in the main deck anyway, so. The other concern here is Cryptic Command, but if he's going to be doing it on his turn, which would be weird, we have a response to that. Next turn, we have a response with Force of Negation. Okay, there we go. So Jace is definitely not going to resolve. This will probably annoy our opponent enough anyway, because I'm certain he didn't see Force of Negation coming. But that's exactly why I at least play Force of Negation in the main deck. It has a lot of usefulness, especially in the first game when your opponent is not expecting it. So Serum Visions is warranted here, and we drew Mana Leak off the top. Now this can be seen as a misplay as well, because we are technically turning off Force of Negation mana, but he's tapped out anyway, so I'm not really concerned about anything going on my turn. So that was the right move, but you have to be careful. That's not, just because you draw Serum Visions and you need something doesn't mean it's the right time to cast. Now, let's see what he casts. So we could actually respond to this, which is fantastic. It's exactly what we want. I don't want him gaining 3 more life and drawing more cards. Let's see how he taps. So he's potentially threatening Counterspell, either Spell Pierce or Stubborn Denial of his own. I'm going to hedge that he doesn't, or Spell Snare, I guess. I'm going to hedge that he doesn't have that. And he concedes. Okay. So he's probably had enough with my counters, and we're off the game too. This is not necessarily a game where I bring Blood Moon in because of Arkham's Astroblade. Just they have the ability to filter their mana. Veil of Summer definitely makes sense here because we're probably going to be facing counter spells on the other end. When I do bring in Huntmaster and more grindy matchups, I usually remove Hooting Mandrills, 2 for 2. Considering we're playing a control deck, they're probably not going to be having a lot of creatures on the board, and the creatures they are going to have, Snapcasters, not a big concern. Eero is not going to be dying from Tarfire or Lightning Bolt. Okay, so the opening hand is good. This is definitely a keep. Yeah, we open up with Delver of Secrets always. Especially since we have protection for Delver of Secrets. If we didn't have protection, it would not be wrong to play Serum Visions instead. But in this case, yeah, I did the correct move there. And we're playing Delver. Let's see if we draw out a Path to Exile. Now keep in mind we only have 1 threat, so we definitely want to protect Delver of Secrets here. So let's see what our opponent draws or fetches for. Okay, so no Path to Exile. That's a good sign. Though he might top deck it. So we got a Field of Ruin. This is okay. The worst that would happen, not right now, but the worst that would happen is that we'd be turned off from red mana because we don't play a mountain. Okay, so Delver didn't flip. We drew one of the 13 remaining lands in our deck, but that's okay. That is very okay. Probably going to fetch for an island here. Yeah, and get our Serum Visions going. So we got Huntmaster. We can cast him in a couple of turns. We definitely don't need a land. Traverse can be useful because we need 2 more card types in the graveyard, and then we can use Delirium. that's not going to be hard given what's in our hand, especially if Delver of Secrets, bites the dust here. And of course, just to complete that thought, oh, there we go. Teferi. Definitely not a card we want, so we are going to counter it. And then you are going to see what happens often when I'm playing this deck. Yeah, there you go. So, our opponent quit. We had a very good hand in game 2, so I doubt that the game would have gotten away from us there. I wanted to post this match as the first of many matches that I'll be doing with Temur Delver, just to kind of show how the deck works, how we build tempo and try and maintain it. Force and negation, pulling its weight there, stubborn denial, you know, inadvertently ending the game in game 2, just by not allowing our opponent to play Teferi. And that's really what we do. We don't want our opponents to play their cards, ideally, and if they do, we want to remove them as soon as possible, and we just want to clear the path for our 1 or 2 threats. Huntmaster of the Fells would have been awesome to have cast in that game, just so I can show you, how I use Huntmaster of the Fells. It's one of my most favorite creatures in Magic, after Tarmogoyf, and it's definitely a creature I always include in my Temur Delver builds. If it survives and is able to flip even once, it's already provided an incredible amount of value in most matchups. And if it hasn't provided value, you are losing the game anyway. That's usually been my experience, and I've played hundreds of games with various configurations of Temur Delver, Temur Hooting Delver, as I call it. So, yeah, this was a quick one, but there's many more that I have. There's more that I want to record, showing off this deck as well, and many other decks. So, thanks for watching, and stay tuned.